Committee on Budget Review, Subcommittee on Economic Development, Tourism, and Environmental Protection. If anybody has cell phones that are turned on, I would ask that you turn them off or at least silence them in some fashion. And with that, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Senator McGarvey, Senator Schroeder, Senator Smith, Representative Gentry,
Here.
Representative Hale, Representative Kulkarni,
Here.
Representative Maddox, Representative Rowland, Representative Reed,
Here.
Representative Weber, Senator Caslin, Chair Beckler.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to welcome to the table Mr. Russ Meyer, Commissioner of the Department of Parks, and Ms. Jennifer Linton, the Executive Director, Office of Facility Development Efficiency. This is a long title. How do you get it on a card? Efficiency, Finance and Administration Cabinet. So welcome. So would you each please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and fellow members. Great to see you all again, and appreciate the opportunity to serve as your Commissioner of Parks, and anything that we can do, parks in your area or anywhere in the state, always communicate with us, call me. We have a great staff. As you mentioned, we have Jennifer Linton here with the Finance Cabinet, but we also have here today, I want to introduce Rob Richards, who is in our Finance Division, Director of Finance for Parks, and Mike Swatsina, who is in Facilities. And just want to thank you all for your support this last session, and appreciate the opportunity to be before you today, and hopefully again in the near future to discuss how we're going to facilitate and spend the $150 million that you appropriated in this last session. It's much needed, and we're excited to formulate that plan and submit that to you all in December for final approval, and move forward and make our parks and continue our parks to be the nation's finest. We'll continue on to the next slide. Is that me that has to move this, or
Yep.
is somebody else? What do I do there? There's a lot of clicking here. Where do I? There we go. There you go. I got a clicker. As you know, Kentucky is home to 45 state parks that serve as major tourism attractions and employers for many rural communities. Parks operations consist of 17 resort parks, 19 recreational parks, 9 historic sites, 13 golf courses, 34 pools and beaches, 15 marinas, and 30 campgrounds. State parks operate on an annual budget of $99.4 million and previously ranks third in the nation for revenue production. Currently, our total maintenance needs at state parks are approximately $231.9 million, and we prioritize these projects based on life safety, severity of need, and structural deficiencies. The bipartisan investment Kentucky has made into our state parks was not only critical but timely for ensuring our parks can remain competitive in the tourism and hospitality industries. Your commitment to our parks will allow us to continue modernization efforts by funding essential preservation projects, maintenance, repair, and new projects that will continue to position our parks to attract new visitors. And we do appreciate your commitment because the $150 million that you all have appropriated for parks that we will submit in December for the next biennium budget we're going to take projects that we have on our list and work this from the ground up. And what I mean by that is we're going to do this with infrastructure projects, and I'll go through that list as we have before you. FY 23-24, $10 million each year, general funding. This will address the repair and or replacement of equipment, mechanical systems, force accounts projects. FY 24, the $150 million bond funding. We will be addressing structural issues at Lake Barkley and Jenny Wiley. As you know, we had to shut down the main lodge at Jenny Wiley last year for approximately 2 months, and put about $1.2 million in that to basically put a Band-Aid on it to get us and buy us 2 or 3 years. The need there is going to be north of $5 million, more like $6 million to address the fix at Jenny Wiley. So Lake Barkley, there's many structural needs there too. Campground improvements statewide, which include utility upgrades, as I said, infrastructure, sewer, regrade or expand site layouts, bathhouse upgrades, camper cabins, and Wi-Fi. And the camper cabins would be a primitive cabin located in parks selected by, the people within our park system that know where those are going to be successful. Accommodation upgrades, bedding, flooring, furniture, bathrooms, soft goods. For an example, most of our lodge rooms have double beds. We're going to move those to queen size beds to accommodate future needs. Flooring upgrades, furniture, and upgrades in the bathrooms of the rooms. Utility improvements throughout parks, line and pole replacement, water lines, and gas lines. Life safety and ADA improvements. Upgrade recreational amenities, swimming pools, golf courses, and tennis courts. And what we're talking about with the courts, we're going to take a look at pickleball, which is one of the fastest growing sports in America, and take some select parks across the state where we think that they will work, and start implementing pickleball. Roof and exterior building repairs, siding, painting, gutters, windows, site improvements, walkways, lighting, concrete repairs, stairways, drainage. Most of our lodges, which were built in the 60s and 70s, need some major improvements in these walkway areas, as you all know if you've been there. With that said, I would say that would be what I call a structural repairs throughout state parks. Next steps, we will identify opportunities with local government and or private entities to share capital costs. And that addresses what you all put in the final budget bill, where we shall take a look at how we can have P3 opportunities or local government sharing opportunities in any of these projects that we have. And we are putting plans together to develop those relationships and work through that. And any opportunities that we feel in these projects would benefit from a P3 or a shared public entity, we will be addressing that at that time. If applicable, pursue market analysis studies for key revenue facilities. Challenges: labor market to complete work, maintenance work conducive with tourist travel season, supply chain constraints, delays with vendors, inflation of labor and materials, and that's just going to be our challenges that we know that we've got for the future in completing all these projects. But with that said, I think I'll move to questions that you may have about parks, about the 150 million, how we plan to address that, and entertain any questions that you have at this time.
I actually might have a couple.
All right, I didn't. I knew you would.
In 2018, the General Assembly provided $50 million in bond funds to go for needed maintenance and upgrades, et cetera, some of the things you've been talking about. The most recent information available to the LRC is that only $7.5 million has been expended. Is that, how do you feel about that? Has the department reevaluated the need for these projects?
Well, that's where Miss Linton comes in here, and that's her presentation, and that's going to answer those questions. And then I feel like after her presentation, that's going to be the best time to answer any questions that you have about that. And Miss Linton's presentation may bring other questions on and answer those questions. So
Okay.
I'm not passing, but I think that's probably the right way to handle that.
Ms. Linton, go ahead. Make your presentation.
Unless,
You're not going to ask them.
were there any other questions for Parks on anything? If not,
Representative Hale?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, this morning. You mentioned the the Jenny Wiley. In my area, the three parks that more closely related to where I live and where I represent are Jenny Wiley, Natural Bridge, and Carter Caves. Is the Jenny Wiley, has there ever been any thought to maybe closing down one of those parks? I mean, I know you talked about the Jenny Wiley. I don't really know. I guess the question is how much use is Jenny Wiley and even Natural Bridge and Carter Caves getting now? I mean, what's the capacity of the usage? How many people are coming there? How many people are using the facilities? I know in Natural Bridge, which was in my district up until just this redistricting process, and speaking to a lot of the folks there, they had a tremendous loss of people coming to that facility. I was just wondering, is there how much more money are we going to talk about putting into some of those
at
facilities?
Natural Bridge, you're saying?
And Jenny Wiley both.
At Jenny Wiley, okay. Well, first, we can get you, just give us time. We'll get you any information you want on those three parks, on how they're performing, how they're doing. I'd rather get you the black and white and red of it than answer that question that way. But I can tell you Natural Bridge is busy. That area, the Red River Gorge, that has taken off since COVID, and it's probably one of our busiest parks from an accommodation standpoint. So I don't know that it has fallen off. Jenny Wiley, there's been some challenges there with the lodge itself. I think that as parks go, our time to reinvest in parks was probably about 13 years ago when the recession hit, and then we started cutting as a state. And as we cut and cut and cut, we left a lot of things behind. And parks was, one of those things we left behind as a state, as a legislature. And, no fault to anyone, just other than going through a recession and try to battle your way out of it. And that, I know that. But now's the time to reinvest and give these parks that bring so much to all our communities across the state an opportunity to perform and work. And you're doing the right thing reinvesting in them, because it's the economic impact that Jenny Wiley brings to that region and community in that area. And all you have to do is go down. I mean, when we go to these parks and you spend some time talking to the county judges, mayors, the people in the community, that Jenny Wiley is one of those parks that community is so proud of. And they know the impact of that park. And reinvesting in a park like that is money well spent for our state, no doubt in my mind. All you have to do is go talk to the people in that community, the elected officials in that community, and they will stand behind that statement, no doubt in my mind. But I can just reassure you that we're doing the right thing. This $150 million is a big hit and going to go a long way. We've got a lot longer way to go. As I came before you all last year, I said we've got $250 million in have-tos. You've got wants, needs, and have-tos. We've got $250 million in have-tos across this state in our parks, and this is going to go a long way. It's going to get us started, and like I said, we're gonna attack it from an infrastructure standpoint, which is basic infrastructure. In 5 of our parks across the state, we own all the electric lines and poles inside those parks. Carter Caves is one of them in your area, and you can imagine, the impact of that park alone. But structural needs in these parks, and we reinvest now. We're gonna see the benefits a long time coming. So, that's just my feeling. Mm-hmm. I've been in your shoes. I've served locally. I've been in the mayor's shoes. I've been in the state representative's shoes, and I know in my heart, I know this reinvestment that we're doing is going to pay dividends down the road.
If I could follow up just real quickly, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think you said on the presentation there was 13 golf courses, I think, that are still operated by the Parks Services. Mm-hmm. Are those courses? Is the play on those courses? How much play are they getting? I guess is what I'm asking.
Let me.
And what's the investment? I mean, how much more money can you put into those? I mean, mm-hmm. I know I've seen several golf courses, even in my own area, that have shut down private not private, but public courses. Mm-hmm. I just wondered how much play those courses were now getting.
Well, I'll give you an example, and golf hit its high in 2003. Since 2003, it has been on a downtick. And just in the last 3 years, golf has been in an uptick. And I've got a feel for golf. I've been in the golf business. My name's been on the line in the golf business. I see it. I feel it. It's an impact that's here to stay. And take my old Kentucky home golf course. 5 years ago was doing 15,000, 16,000 rounds. This last year did 25,000 rounds. So the numbers are up in golf. And, we're going to take some of this $150 million and put into our golf courses, where it's needed. You can take a golf course, Kentucky Dam Village. Great golf course, does well maintained, does really well for the economic impact in that area. And their irrigation system down there, they're still operating on a 1960s irrigation system where somebody has to go out, stick a sprinkler in a quick coupler, turn it so you can water the fairways. So that's an upgrade that has to be done and will drastically impact the bottom line of that golf course, the operation of that golf course from a manpower standpoint. So there's a lot of things we can do to make our golf courses more efficiently, but we have to have a commitment and a reinvestment to do that. And it's going to pay off. We've seen it pay off. We've been doing a bunker renovation statewide and redoing bunkers, beautifying the golf courses. I just feel like if we're patient, you have to understand the economic impact for the communities that these golf courses are in, the draw, what they're doing for these communities outside the bottom line figure of how that golf course is performing. That's kind of what we have to look at in a lot of ways with them. But we also have to get an ROI, return on our investment. We also have to look at running these golf courses as efficiently as possible. And that's what we're doing. So I appreciate that question. I appreciate both those questions, but it's bigger than the question itself, because it's as big as the region that these parks are in, and it's as big as these communities are in. And
to hear that one is getting, like you said, 20 plus thousand
Yes.
rounds of golf a year. That's good. I mean, that's really a good figure.
It's a good figure, and it's happening statewide from a percentage standpoint across the board. It's happening at all our golf courses. And listen, we've got golf courses in our park system that are top 10 golf courses in the state, and that includes private golf courses. Mm-hmm. Extremely nice. I mean, unbelievable places to go play golf for our families, for the people here in the state, for a tourism attraction from outside the state. So,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Pardon my cynicism, but I believe you just mentioned, we have golf courses that are top 10 in the state. Mm-hmm. Ranked by whom?
Ranked by Golf Course Magazine, Golf Digest.
I'd like to see that.
Okay. We can get that for you.
And you also spoke about the economic impact from the golf courses. Have you measured that? And how do you measure it? You talked about economic impact for a park, but have you broken it down?
Well, from a park standpoint, it's a bottom line figure. That's easy to look at.
Right, but I thought you said economic, unless I misunderstood.
Right.
You said the economic impact from the golf courses.
Exactly.
And my question is, have you actually measured that, and how do you measure it?
That would be economic development impact study. So I would have to look into these local communities, talk to the judges and mayors and their tourism, and see what they say. But I think we could probably measure it here at the state level.
Once again,
but I don't have that figure for you. I could get that figure for you.
I'm asking, just follow up on your comment. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see what the economic impact is just from the golf courses.
We can get that for you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Along the lines, you mentioned in your presentation that previously we ranked number 3 in the nation for revenue production. Where do we rank now?
That may be a Rob Richards question. So, Rob,
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
It probably is around 3. I think in California it's above us.
I think we can comfortably say top 5, but
Could you-
it probably is around 3.
Would you go ahead and document that and get that
We
to
can
us,
document that and get that for you.
please?
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Absolutely.
Okay, Representative Gentry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Russ.
How are you doing, Representative?
I'm doing great, and I just want to follow up a little bit on the golf issue. I know there were some conversations before, I think last year or whatever, about golf being self-sustainable from a revenue standpoint. You discussed that, and at that time you talked about the resurgence of golf to some degree from COVID area. I've seen that as well. As you know, I'm working the golf industry as well for many years, and very aware of what that industry has done. And my quick question, just to kind of change the perspective, not change the perspective, but add a perspective to it a little bit. Tennis courts, are they self-sustainable in your parks from a financial standpoint?
They are an amenity. Pools are an
Pools.
amenity.
I was getting ready to ask the same thing. But all these things together provide activities and draw people to come to spend their money. So they're very necessary. Golf is something that, we're having these discussions at the metropolitan and urban city levels and metro parks areas. They're expensive to maintain. I'd like to see a little bit more effort put into junior programs and revitalizing the game again for youngsters, because we've made some decisions in the industry over the few decades, as you know, where we've driven cost up. I remember guys like Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player, people like this in the 1990s talking about doing something to the golf ball, because you're going to end up pricing yourself out of the market because you need so much real estate to put a golf course down, and you're going to end up alienating lower income people to even afford to be able to play the game. And we're seeing some of that now. And before we just start getting rid of the sport, which is an unbelievable sport for youngsters and for all ages, by the way, especially people with disabilities, which I'm heavily involved with, which is great rehab. But we need to really take a step back and look at the advantages and what it does bring. And from a park system, it's an extra carrot to draw people in. That's really what we're trying to do here, right, from a tourism standpoint, especially trying to go to a tax system that's more consumptive-based. Man, we got to hit on our tourism, because a lot of these consumptive-based states rely on that quite a bit. And we need to do a better job with that. And let's focus some of our investments in increasing our tourism, especially if we're going to go down that road. Thank you. That's all I have.
And thank you, Representative. And I can assure you, as I stated, Mr. Chair and members, I've been on both sides of this. In the golf business, I was an owner of a golf course, and my name was on the line. And each and every week, each and every year, in making it work, I know how tough it is to make them work. And, on this side where, you put a golf course up in Yatesville that Arthur Hills designed. It's an unbelievable golf course that, that community saw that. The state saw that as another tool in the toolbox, not only for that community, but for that region as a draw. Here's what we have. Here is what we have if you bring your business to Kentucky. This is Kentucky. And so, I don't mean that in a way that it's okay, but I want you to know that Kentucky State Parks and what we do each and every day, we set out to run an efficient operation that we get a return on our investment on. And, that's how we do it. But some of these golf courses are in areas where it's just tough. It's tough. You don't have the traffic. You don't have the metro area to draw from. But the way it was looked at when they were built from an economic development standpoint is it's another tool in the toolbox for that community that didn't have anything over in eastern Kentucky or over in western Kentucky. And you get a real feel for that when you go talk to the local elected officials and the local people in those communities that take so much pride in them. So it's just pretty cool to be a part of that and have the opportunity to generate as much as we can with these too. So thank you.
All right, I want to go on to the financial part of it, because that's what the main thrust of the meeting today will be. Ms. Linton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'm Jennifer Linton. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Facility Development and Efficiency within the Finance Cabinet. And I was asked to come talk about the status of the parks projects that have been authorized in the last two bienniums. In the 2018-2020 biennial budget in House Bill 200, Parks received $20 million in bond-funded maintenance pool. And as Chairman Beckler said, in 2019, Parks received $50 million in House Bill 268 with 5 very specific pools of what that money could be used for. So it wasn't like a normal maintenance pool, but it was very specified into the wastewater treatment, the roof repairs, the utility and communications, life safety, and hospitality upgrades with specific amounts for each of those pools. And then in the 2020 and 2021 authorizations, Parks received an additional $10 million in bond-funded maintenance pool, and then another $10 million towards the wastewater treatment upgrades. Out of Parks' 2018-2020 bonded maintenance pool, 98.6% of that, $20 million, has been transferred to projects that are either complete or ongoing, leaving a balance currently of $276,082 out of that $20 million. So to Chairman Beckler's question about the 2019 authorization of the $50 million, this breaks down and shows out of the $20,100,000 that was authorized for wastewater treatment, there is currently $17,800,000 remaining in that for wastewater treatment. In just a minute, we'll talk about what it's been spent on and what the plans are for that. Out of the roof funds of $11,600,000, there's currently $1,227,000 remaining. For the funds that were authorized for utilities and communications, out of the $10,800,000, there's about $3.7 million left. For the life safety upgrades and the ADA improvements, out of the 4.1, there's $358,700 left. And out of the hospitality pool that the commissioner also talked about, some of the plans they have for that, out of the $3.4 million, there's $562,035 left for that, with a total of $23,706,000 left out of the $50 million. For the wastewater, because I know that's a large amount of the money that was authorized. Between the 2019 and then the 2020 and 2021 authorizations, there was a total of $30.1 million authorized for wastewater. Currently, technically there's a balance right now of $27.8 million in the wastewater. These projects take time to implement. In 2019, when Parks received the first $20 million, Finance Cabinet issued RFPs to hire design consultants. And we took the state and split it between the East and the West and hired a consultant for each half of the state. And those consultants looked at, they analyzed the facilities at all the parks, they prioritized the needs, and then started the design process of either the replacement or taking that park's wastewater treatment plant and trying to tie on to the local utility to get parks out of that business of wastewater treatment. It's a very costly operating expense for parks, and it brings lots of maintenance issues as well. So over the last 3 years with parks, with finance, and with our consultants, we've identified the most urgent needs with parks for wastewater treatment. And some of these are actually going out to bid right now. And then with others, we are working through an MOA process with the local utility. Right now, with current estimates, we've identified about $38.6 million worth of needs. So right now, our needs far exceed our available funds for the current funding for wastewater treatment. And that's one of the things I know Parks is looking at with their potential $150 million in fiscal year 24 is to be able to supplement the rest of the wastewater needs with that funding. For the roof replacement pool, and I don't want to sit and read to you all, but these are the projects that have been the roof replacements that have been either completed or in process right now, and I know you all have this in front of you. So, with the remaining funds that's left, part of this process with the roofs was similar to the wastewater treatment. We issued RFPs, we hired consultants, we split the state between the East and the West. And again, our consultants had to analyze, evaluate, and prioritize the roofs within parks to address the most urgent needs first we would go through the design, the bid process, and then evaluate with available funding that was left what the next projects were. The remaining projects that we have right now that are under design and ready to go out for bid, again, we're around almost $3 million. This currently, again, exceeds the available funds left out of the $50 million roof pool of the $11.6 million. So again, Parks will be looking at having to supplement some of these roof needs with the potential $150 million that they'll be receiving in fiscal year '24. Some of the smaller pools of money, but obviously still important, the utilities and communications and cabling infrastructure replacement pool. Some of the things Parks has done with that money is they're working on the Wi-Fi at their parks and at the campgrounds to get, because I think campgrounds have been a big push for you all for Wi-Fi have Wi-Fi. There's been electrical upgrades at various parks. Lake Barkley, we're working on a new primary feed for electric. And so that's what's been done. So we're going to continue with the remaining funds to work on Wi-Fi at parks, again with focus on the campgrounds. To something the commissioner spoke of earlier is looking at clearing right-of-ways and the replacement of poles and transformers where needed. Looking at replacing and repairing water and gas mains, and upgrade electrical services to lodges to prevent breaker trips. Kind of, with the hospitality upgrades that Parks needs to do, I know one of the things I keep hearing about is some of the lodges don't have refrigerators in the room, and jump in, Commissioner, if I misstate this, but one of the issues they have at a lot of the lodges is they don't have the electrical infrastructure to support all of those refrigerators in all those rooms. So it's one of those, it's not a pretty fix, but it's a fix that's got to be done to be able to provide that service to the guest. Some of the life safety projects that have been completed in ADA improvements is several of the lodge we've been working on life safety upgrades with sprinkler systems and structural repairs. Other things, we're going to continue looking at sprinkler systems, address ADA pedways, and some more ADA modifications during cottage remodels. Out of the hospitality pool, Parks has been working at Barren River, Greenbow, Rough River, Natural Bridge, Jenny Wiley, Cumberland Falls to improve the furnishings at those parks. And then out of this biennium that just ended, out of the $20 million that was received for 2022, 99.6% of those funds have been transferred to projects that are complete or underway, with only $38,762 remaining of that $20 million. Do you have any questions?
Okay. I imagine we'll have a few questions. So with regard to the $50 million bond funds, did I understand correctly that there's $23,700,000 roughly that still hasn't been authorized, or?
It has not been obligated to a project, but it is, so on this slide right here, there's the 23,706 that's remaining.
Right.
So let's look at wastewater. In the wastewater, there's about 17.8 remaining.
Right.
And so our total wastewater needs right now are about 38 million. So some of this out of this 38 million, some of this has been moved to projects, but there's about 27.8 remaining right there between the two authorizations for wastewater.
I guess one of the things that I'm struggling with here is you've got 38 million more needed. 20 million roughly was authorized, but there's still 17, almost 18 million remaining. I mean,
so that remaining goes towards these projects. So the way it works is these projects are authorized in a pool account, and then as we're ready to award projects or award MOAs, the money is moved from that pool to a specific project.
But that was, 3 years ago? And it just seems to me that It's an awful long time to still have, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, with the
But-
wastewater, I mean, there's such more complicated systems than a roof or even an HVAC system in that there's a lot of design that has to go on. There's property issues if you're going to move from the park's package system to the local utility to tie onto the local utility. So there's easements that have to be worked through. It's a lot more complicated than your normal roof or HVAC project with all the pieces that are involved in these wastewater projects.
So 3 years, if we did this again later on, it'd be another 3 years where there would still be, 85% of the money
It's
still
possible
not allocated?
with the work that's been done now. I mean, most of these systems have been, analyzed and prioritized. So there's a lot of information now that would save time for when future funding's received. When Parks received the initial $20 million in 2019 for the wastewater, none of this. I mean, we knew we had systems. We knew Parks had violations. We knew systems needed to be replaced, but we didn't have the technical information on the systems or the knowledge of what could be done to replace those systems at that time. So there was a lot of discovery that went in 2019, 2020 till now. And like I said, we are right now, I think there's 2 projects that getting ready to go out for bid for wastewater. Which 2 are those? Okay. Yeah, so there's 2 projects literally getting ready to hit the streets. My office will be advertising those 2 projects to go out for bid right now within the next few weeks.
And once you send something out for bid, when would you expect to get replies?
Normally on a project of that size, they're a couple $1 million projects, we would probably have them advertised for about 3 to 4 weeks to allow contractors time to, review the bids and review the plans and specs and put a bid together. So within about a month from the time it's advertised, we would have an apparent bidder, low bidder, and then within a week or 2, we would have a contract in place for that.
So in about 2 months,
Yes.
you'll have a bid in place, and that will take care of the remaining 17 million?
No. That's just for the current 2 projects that are going out right now. Several of these projects that we're working on are actually MOAs with the local utility companies, and those MOAs should be signed and in place within the next month as well.
All right. How long, when will all the money be spent? All the 20 million?
Spent or committed to a project?
Give me both.
I would say committed to a project within the next 6 months to a year. Yeah. The other thing is, we have to evaluate once these bids come in, what the available funds are that are left. Because right now we're averaging about 20% over on our bids. And so that's one of we have to bid projects to see how much money's left to see what other projects, what projects go next. But I would say, and please don't, I know I'm under oath, but this is not an affirmative an answer on when the money would be committed. Within the next 6 to 12 months, we should have all that money committed.
And then after that, what would you anticipate the length of time would be before those projects are complete?
I actually don't have that information. All projects are different when it comes to their completion times. And each project would be different, and I would have to get that information and get that back to you to see what the anticipated schedule is on those projects.
Yeah, I would like
Okay.
to find out when the money that's been allocated or authorized,
Sure.
rather, when we'll see the fruits of the labor.
Okay.
Now, for the rest of the roof repair, et cetera, do you anticipate that roughly the same time frame, or when do you expect those to be completed? Once again,
I would say we would have the remaining, we've got about 1.2 million is all we have left in roofs. We'll have that committed, I would say, within the next 6 months to projects.
okay. And let me just put this so we don't have to go item by item. But in total, out of the 50 million, when would you anticipate all of the money would be committed? And maybe I'm using the wrong term for somebody in finance. So
Committed
You're gonna
to a project or
Co-
a completed project.
committed to a project. When will you? When do you anticipate that all the money will be committed? And by committed, I mean signed contracts,
Under
et cetera.
contract. So let's
Under
say-
contract. Okay.
So let's okay. I don't know that I could put a date to it. I mean, it's a very active process right now. We are working a lot of we have I think about 66 active parks projects right now that my office is working. So I mean, it's to put a date to when all of those projects would be complete or under contract. I could attempt a timeline, but it's nothing I have right now for you.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking these questions is, we did 50 million in 2019, and then we did 150 million last year, and that's a fair amount of change for the Commonwealth.
Yes, sir.
And once that money has been bonded, and I don't know if I want to say given to you, but once the money has been put aside for you, we would like to see when things are going to be complete. And it seems like things have been delayed. I'll just put it that way. And that's not good either for the legislature or more importantly for the citizens of the Commonwealth.
And I don't honestly feel like there's been a delay. I think it's just the process that, to do these projects. I know it may appear to be a delay, but it's. I mean, there's been progress made through these 3 years.
I'll go with appearance. That's
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they have been very actively being worked over the last 3 years.
I don't know that everybody is aware of that. Okay, let's go ahead, unless anybody has any questions on the 50 million. Okay, let's move on to the current budget. Get to the 150 million if we could, please.
Oh, I don't have that. I was only asked to do 18 through 22.
Right.
Do you want to go back to yours?
Oh, okay. Absolutely. Okay, any other questions on the 150 million?
Yeah, I have quite a few.
Okay.
All right. 150. It was in bond funds, and they were appropriated to establish the State Parks Improvement Pool, and it had several conditions and required a report in December of this year. You alluded to that earlier. My questions are, what plans does the department have to conduct a required review? For the
Well,
report.
To report in December?
Yeah.
Well-
What plans are in place? What's the time, I guess, what are the timelines to prepare and submit the required report?
Well, we've started communication with Senate leadership, who came up with the structure of how the 150 million is allocated, and that Parks has to submit by December 1 the list. So with that said, I mean, we met with Senator McDaniel, Senator Stivers, President Stivers, right at about a month ago to discuss and start that process. So with that said, we've been in a budget process finalizing our budget. Our team will begin immediately and has a list of projects, needed projects. As I said, there's 250 million in have-tos that we've had before the legislature over the last, I don't know how many years, but it's been what's been called the 6-year plan. And we will take from that list. For an example, I'll give you an example. I mentioned that we own the electric utility and poles in 5 of our parks. And that fix, going in and taking care of the right-of-ways, replacing the poles that need to be replaced, and I've been told that we have probably 60% of our poles have to be replaced, is right around a $20 million figure to fix that. That's just a basic infrastructure need that Parks has. And that need is substantiated with last year alone at Kentucky Dam Village, who is one of those parks. That park was down 34 days with outages because of the deficiencies within the lines in the system that has been let go over the last 20 plus years. So, I mean, that's an immediate need that we know, and there's several of those on this list, between basic infrastructure needs and structural infrastructure needs that are going to be put into that 150 million. That there's no guesswork involved. There's no planning. It is what it is, and we're bringing it into that 150 million. But the process will be, we'll get back with Senate leadership, House leadership. We can get back with any member at any time that wants to sit down and go through these projects, our process. But our team will be meeting immediately to put the plan, our presentation together to bring that to you all, and along with that, the possibility and opportunity of P3s, if there are any out there within these projects that we have listed, P3 projects and local government partnership opportunities. So
The appropriation, am I to understand that you're planning to implement the appropriation by what's on the screen now?
by what's on the screen. In a broad perspective, everything is in what is on the screen. Yes.
Have you prioritized those?
We've not.
Do you plan on prioritizing them?
We absolutely plan on prioritizing them, communicating them with Senate and the House, and making a proper presentation on December 1 as stated in the bill.
You mentioned that you spoke with Chair McDaniel and President Stivers. Have you spoken with Chair Petrie and Speaker Osborne?
Have not.
Do you have plans to do so?
Absolutely.
What time frame?
We should, before October 1, September, October, we should have been in to see the leadership in the House, leadership in the Senate again, and be prepared to move on and solidify our list and make a successful presentation December 1.
I believe the appropriation also, in addition to the report, one of the conditions was conduct a review. Have you done that? Do you have plans to do that?
Conduct a review. What?
To conduct a review of your initial, of the stuff up there. you gonna go ahead and?
Are you saying that's in the bill? Is that what you said? Or is it?
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't written down in the review, excuse me, but I believe the intent was to, really make sure that it is a well-vetted plan.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why we started the process with where it came from was the Senate, because I know the House version of what was proposed for parks and the budget was completely different. It went to the Senate, it was changed, and then the House concurred and went along with what the Senate came up with. So that's why we started with President Stivers and McDaniel, because that's where the bill came from. We wanted a better understanding of how to process through this and where we needed to go. So we got that with that meeting, and we're moving forward.
How far along are you so far in preparing the report?
We're pretty far along. We've met in the last 3 weeks with our team, and we're pretty far along. It wouldn't take us long to put this together, I can tell you, because of the needs out there. Not the needs, the have-tos of what we have to do. It's not going to take long to fill this list and this $150 million with our team. But as I said, we have just finished up the budget process of 45 state parks and going and meeting with every park manager and going through that. We just finished that 2 weeks ago. So,
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Representative Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just really quick, Russ. Do we have any idea? I noticed a lot of these improvements that are going on are improvements and not necessarily repair and maintenance as much as major infrastructure improvements. Do we have any idea what kind of value increases we're going to look at in our assets of our state parks after all of these upgrades or improvements are completed, roughly? I mean, probably not prepared for that question, but I was just curious.
No, it's a great question. But, as you saw Ms. Linton's presentation in its own to upgrade, sewer facilities that are inside our parks and water facilities, I want to say it's a process, not a problem. It's a process to get a wastewater project completed or a water project completed. After you go through the preliminary design, you go through the design process, you go through the letting process. It takes a while to get that done, and a lot of these projects are going to be that same way. So timelines on how quick the $150 million gets spent, timelines and as we move along over the next 5 years to take care of these projects that we needed to do 25 years ago, we're 5 years down the road and we've got 5 more years of problems coming. So,
Absolutely,
and the last time I came and met before you all, I said, it's hard to continue to fight backfires when you need to be fighting front fires, and you can't run a what you would call a high-end efficient operation when you're fighting backfires all the time. Let's just say that.
All right, thanks for that. And I sit on Economic Development Committee as well, and we've had tourism come in and give some really good presentations over the last year or two and the need, and they shared with us really what's been happening about spending that's going on with consumers across our nation, and how we're really trying to compete for those dollars. And you know, it's driving inflation. I mean, you just look at your last category up there on challenges, and you got a lot of work ahead of you to get this done. And I appreciate y'all's hard work trying to put this together. I know it's a major deal, but this is a good deal. This is a great time to reinvest, and it's way too late, but we have to get it done. When you look at all this work, you know, what pops out to me are a couple of things. One, jobs, and state revenue. As long we're not a consumptive-based tax system totally yet, so there's a lot of state revenue in that employment, and also appreciation of our assets is big. So this is the time to do it, and you know, we all want to get it done as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible, but there are some major challenges up there with supply chains, especially, and the type of work you're going to be doing in the labor market as well. So best of luck.
Well,
and I appreciate your hard work.
thank you, Representative, and I just want to thank each and every one of you all, because what you made is a tough decision. When you make a decision to spend $150 million in your parks or on anything, that's not an easy decision. And, you know, it was the right decision. And the state of Kentucky is going to benefit from the decision you made to reinvest in your parks.
Representative Hale, I think that you had a question after Russ's initial presentation, and I kind of cut you off. You got it answered? Okay. Russ, Jennifer, thank you very much for your presentation. As you can tell, the idea of tourism is extremely important to Kentucky. And you're in the job, so you know it. But as you alluded to, $150 million is quite a chunk of change for us. It was a tough decision. We're hoping it was the right decision. But with that is going to come a lot of hard looking. So I hope you understand that we may have you back. Be prepared for a lot of questions. We're very interested in how the money is going to be spent, when it's going to be spent, and why you're spending it on particular things. So with that, I thank you for your presentation. For members, our next meeting will be on August the 17th. Will be chaired by Senator